It's hump day here on UCY.TV, and you are listening to live radio again for the next 2 hours. My name is Jim Funke, and this is Boiler Room Radio. The guy over there on the East Coast in his reclining rocker chair in front of his PC with his feet up, that's Lance Musser. Good evening, Lance Musser.
Good evening, brother.
How are you tonight?
I'm doing wonderful.
How was your day today?
Good weather. Got a lot accomplished, so it was a good day, all in all.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't get to hit the links, though, because you had to work.
No, but I'll be playing Friday in a tournament called Beyond Boobs. It's not as dirty as it sounds. It's about breast cancer and stuff like that. But
right.
It's a benefit.
Some pink clubs?
They give you pink balls when you play. So
better than blue ones.
Hey, that's true.
Who else is going to be out there? Is it like you got a pro-am thing or?
I got a couple realtors that I work with invited me to play. I invited them out to play last year. So it's just 4 friends, all realtors that I work with and another mortgage lender that I work with. And I always bring a couple pitchers of Bloody Marys.
Ooh, nice.
And
drag the grill out there? Drag the grill out there.
Rig it up to attach to the back of the golf cart.
Shit, yeah, man. Get on the back, and once you finish up, go to the 19th hole and park that sumbitch and start flipping.
Yeah, I'm sure that'll go over well. But, free beer, free Bloody Mary.
And save a boob.
Yeah, there you go.
Hey, man, I hit him out of the park, dude. I hit him out of the park.
I like it.
And you got 3 days to set it up. Well, you got 2 days to set it up.
No, they pay, the clubhouse pays, they have to pay the clubhouse to put their food out there, but that's a good idea. I could venture in on that. Buy a butt, save a boob.
There you go.
I like it. Damn, you're on a roll.
You owe me.
The evening's just starting.
Yep. All right. Let's jump into Smoke'em's Market Minute since we're talking about flipping butts and stuff.
Sure.
What's going on Wally Street?
If you have a 401k, if you're looking at it, it went down a little bit today. Mortgage rates got a little bit better today, but same old manipulation going on.
Talking about housing going in the toilet, dude. I heard that on Mainstream today.
Yeah, they did. In fact, that's why for weird reasons. I mean, the stock market got really bad because of the housing stat numbers and everything else, which in turn, help lower the interest rates, or not lower them, but the cost of it. But there's no getting out of it. I mean, they know it, so it's just manipulation as much as they can.
God, they couldn't hold off for 6 months, dude, until I got my house gone. They couldn't hold on 6 months.
Hey, man, it could make it till 2016. You never know.
Shit. I better not have that damn thing for 2 years.
No, I hope not for you.
Anyway, keep going.
One of my stories here, Japan dumping as much U.S. treasuries as they can just while paying us lip service. So they say, oh, thank you, and then dump everything behind them, and they're buying gold. They bought 270 metric tons last month. That's off of Steve Quayle. That's a large amount of gold. So
you're talking about China, right?
No, that was Japan. Oh. That was actually Japan last month.
China went dark. China is no longer moving their gold through Hong Kong. Mm-hmm. They're going through a different city so that the amount of gold that they purchase on a monthly basis does not get reported to anyone. Kind of strange. Just saw that day before yesterday, I think.
That's scary.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's a lot of stuff that's concerning and, scary. I don't know if you saw the story or if any of the readers saw the story about Google autocomplete and what it tells us about America. Because, when you type something into Google, it autocompletes and talks about, it fills it in with what other people have asked and what have been asking.
Yeah. Start off with what is and just fill out the rest of the.
Exactly. And as you type certain letters, each letter starts spelling out a word, you get different stuff. Like,
right.
When Obama is, and then it's gay, idiot, Israel, a liar. Those are the top, ones. Is America doomed? a country going to war with Russia, democracy. So, you have these other ones.
Right.
But, the interesting one that because my story's on money, the dollar is
dead.
That's one of them. That's number 2.
Collapsing.
The dollar is collapsing. The dollar is dead. The dollar is crashing. The dollar is dying. The dollar is devalued. The dollar is not backed by gold. The dollar is losing value. The dollar is backed by. The dollar is not going to collapse. The dollar is worthless.
One positive out of how many did you name off? 15?
10.
10.
Yeah, 10.
One positive.
And it was number 9.
Not collapsing.
And it was number 9
Bullshit.
on the list too. Yeah. So I thought that was pretty cute.
Very funny.
Another good story, and there's more going to come out about it. A foreclosed homeowner beats a big bank. The judge actually voided the sale of the man's home, and he took a Bank of America.
What's the name of the judge?
To court.
We got to give him kudos. Well, if it's down farther in the story, go ahead. Sorry.
Bradburn. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure where it is in the story, and it's actually a pretty lengthy story, lengthier than I was going to get in. Oh,
There's
Judge
no hyper,
Bowden.
so you got
Judge Bowden. There we go.
There you go, Judge Bowden. You the man for a minute till you do something stupid because you are wearing a robe. But for this one, way to go, gold star.
Yeah.
Give that man a cookie.
And give the attorney, Connecticut attorney, Christopher Brown, he must have done a hell of a job. Yeah, he gets a kudos too. So, there's 2 people that are bucking the system. Good thing they're not bankers. They'd probably end up dead. So, that's a good story to look at.
Drop that in chat.
I will. Right remember when we talked the story about the other night, what kind of helicopters were they taken away from the National Guard?
The Apaches.
The U.S. is resuming delivery of Apache attack helicopters to Egypt.
Yep.
And releasing, and this is where I'm going to ask you a question here, and releasing half of the $1.3 billion a year military assistance that was suspended last year. Obama decided to provide 10 helicopters.
So just for everybody's, just so everybody knows, that's what billion? How much?
3.
1.3 billion. And some of the finest attack choppers ever made going to the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt.
To help fight terrorism, though. And
right. So they're going to give them to terrorists.
Exactly.
That's fucking genius.
The assistance was halted after the military led the ouster of Egypt's democratically elected president. Kerry told lawmakers that Egypt is abiding by its peace treaty with Israel and combating terrorism. Whatever. He is certifying to Congress that Egypt is sustaining the strategic relationship with the United States, said Jim Pasaki, your favorite woman.
Jen Psaki.
Psaki.
You don't pronounce the P, it's just Psaki.
Sorry, Psaki.
The redheaded bimbo.
Mm-hmm. Now where is
Liar Extraordinaire?
Yeah, Liar Extraordinaire is a good one. They're also giving the AH-64D Longbow helicopters. They're all brand new. So they're not even giving them the used ones that they confiscated. All that.
So they took all the ones that they were ordering from General Dynamics to replace all our old ones, and they gave them to Egypt, and then took all of our ones from the National Guard to replace their old ones.
And listen to this. The Pentagon continues to withhold previously ordered F-16 fighter jets made by Martin and General Dynamics and M1A1 tanks to be assembled in Egypt and Harpoon anti-ship missiles from Boeing. So
didn't we just bring some M1A1s out of Germany?
This is the whole reason I read the story right here. This is the whole reason I read the story. ...
Give me the Sharpie.
Yeah. So, we got the M1A1s here. We got the Apache helicopters up here. And I guess it really doesn't say that it's new. And nowhere in the article does it say brand new. But it talks about who they're made by and everything like that.
I'm sure they've got all the updated computers and stuff in them.
Yeah, so I just thought that was an interesting, still kind of finance because it has all the money. But when I read the thing about the tanks, I was like, wait a minute. Didn't we just take all of them out of Germany? What do we do with those?
Amazing.
It is. And lastly, you I think touched on a story the other night, and you said about the tax dollars, and you rattled off some stuff about, where your tax dollars
Yeah, actually, I'm going to finish that list tonight. I might actually do the whole list over. Because I only got through about 15, and I think there's 40 plus on that list. So,
right.
Anyway, go ahead.
Well, I have one too, and there was a new one that was put together, and I'm going to read a couple of them. Should we do Manarino first and let him get his spew out of the way, and then we'll go into the lists? Yeah, might as well. Scott and Manarino then.
Scott didn't put one out today. He's on the travel.
Oh, yeah. He's on hiatus.
Well, he's just traveling today. I think he's going to drop one tomorrow because he's on his way to New Mexico. So.
All right. Yeah, let's roll into him then.
Yeah, we'll do Mr. Greggy. Hoping to get some crickets tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Whoa! That's not worth it.
Hi, everybody. It's me, Greg Manarino. How are you today? It is Wednesday, April 23rd, 2014.
White shirt, dark tie. Must have been a shitty day. Get
started, let me just tell you all how overwhelmed I am by the responses from all of you yesterday, from everywhere, all over the world, telling me about how you're doing. It's so important. It really is. I mean that from the heart, and I'm trying my hardest out here to make all this work for us.
He's full of shit.
Anyway, with that said,
so buy my book. Click on my head. Here.
So today, the equity markets were under some pressure. I thought this might happen. I went over this in yesterday's video. As a matter of fact, the Dow is about flat. The Nasdaq finished down about 0.83%, I believe. The S&P 500, I think about 0.25%, not too much here. There's a lot going on, earnings coming in here as well. But the real story today, was new home sales. They plummeted.
See, there we go.
To an 8-month low. And this just is perpetuating the story or the fact
that's not existing market.
That housing is in a slowdown at this point. And the reasons are completely in our face, people. There's no doubt about that. Lack of affordability, I've gone over that. And why is that? Well, people aren't getting the jobs that we're being told are out there that they're making. The labor force participation rate is still near historic lows. New graduates are making less money. People are making less money. It's absurd. Again, and no matter what they try to tell us about the farce
is broken.
Of the recovery, it becomes clearer and clearer every day here, beyond any doubt. I mean, when you have a situation where 1 in 5 Americans are receiving public assistance, there's a serious issue here. So they can tell us whatever they want. They can blow sunshine wherever they want.
All right, we got 20 people in chat.
Until we
Which 4 of you are taking some state aid?
Situation. Americans needing assistance at more than 20% of the population. We're nowhere. So maybe our politicians and Obama need to focus on that, instead of trying to make their Wall Street friends richer, because that's all this is doing. This mechanism of suppressed interest rates.
And they don't give a shit about anybody else.
I've been over this countless times. So what else is going on here? A couple of things as well. I did close my position on Caterpillar. I was tempted to do it yesterday. I did not. But I did close that today. I pulled about a 6% profit out of it, a little more than that actually. I am still holding Microsoft. Now, admittedly, this is a speculative trade here, people. So if you're involved in this, be ready to close that position or cover it if it goes the wrong way. I actually added to that position today. I also bought puts on, my goodness, ORLY. I'm having a moment here. Yes, November in the money puts. It's on my site, traderschoice.net. There's a link right down here with regard to that position as well. I think the market is toppy here, people, but that does not mean we're not going to go higher depending on earnings over the next couple of days as well. But
toppy.
There's nothing wrong. We're trying to hedge our positions here, and that's what I'm trying to do. I'm not also just going back to Caterpillar. I'm not saying that there is not more gains there. There absolutely may be. But understand, it's never ever wrong to pull a profit. Doesn't matter. If this goes up another, whatever it does, I don't personally care. I did pull a profit out, and that's just so important. Don't be overly greedy. Don't be a pig. Pigs get slaughtered. All right. That's just so important to understand in this business of trading, people. It's a hard mentality to develop. Sometimes we get married to our positions. I do too. There's no doubt about it. Even though I've been doing this for decades, it still happens. It's a phenomenon that is very difficult to manage from time to time. And I don't know a trader out there.
Phenomenon. Quit talking to your people. Quit talking to your people, man. You're on my show. All right. Anyway, thanks, Greg. Appreciate the update. Everything's.
He didn't say the weather though. He didn't blame the housing on the weather like everybody else was.
Yeah, right. It's because of the all of a sudden heat wave.
Yeah.
Blame it on the chemtrails. I've been seeing them almost every day. Well, I got 2 days with no chemtrails, but they started again today.
We can talk about that later too, because I saw a great interview by JPL today where they were actually talking about it, that it's being used and how it's not a good thing. It's interesting though.
No, it's not a good thing.
No. No, in fact, I have a friend before we dive back into this who on Facebook that is, if anyone can produce a movie that was recorded in before like 85 or something like that, that shows a picture of chemtrails, in the sky or something, he'll give them, I can't remember, $50,000 or something, because they didn't exist back then.
They did. And they existed back into the 60s because they were doing it over in Vietnam too. They were seeding clouds to make it rain like hell so that they couldn't get around. All the roads were muddy and shit and couldn't people travel.
I do remember hearing about that.
So, and they used to cloud seed in California all the time too to make it rain so that they could start doing the crop shit out there, and build up the reservoirs and blah, 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 blah. So now they're just doing the opposite. I mean, they used to make it rain. Now they're making it not rain. Or when it does rain, it's raining chemicals.
Well, as a kid looking up at the sky, watching clouds, I don't ever remember straight ones.
No.
Yeah, I don't remember straight ones.
I'm getting back to my Skyder alert. I did it quite a few times up in Illinois, but now if I go outside and I see it, Skyder alert, it's an app that anybody can get for their smartphone. It ties into your camera and it will locate where you're at, where you take the picture from. And it will send the picture via tweet, via email, via fax, however you want to send it, to your congressman. All of them that are in your district. All of them that are in your state. So, and it gives you all their phone numbers and shit so you can call them and raise hell.
Wiki says it's just a conspiracy and we're all crazy.
Well, that's okay, man. I'll tweet the conspiracy shit. But I'm doing it now. Every time I walk outside, if I see trails, I take a picture and send it out. And it says, I do not agree to be chemtrailed,
Yeah. You have to send me that later on, but I've tried that out.
Just go to skyderalert.com, SKYDERALERT.com. I'll type it in the room. It's for any phone, Android, iPhone, whatever you got. So, and the more of them, it's going to be a pain in their ass. That's what I want to be, is a pain in their ass. I want them to get a fax from me every day or a tweet from me every day saying, you pricks, stop it. You got a 3% approval rating. I'll give you my approval if you'll stop that shit. Because like I say every time, man, if I had access to a sand battery, I'd shoot them out of the goddamn sky. It irritates me to no. I can't even describe it. It turns my day into shit when I walk outside and see trails. So anyway, go ahead. Sorry. How many how many's on your list? I got 43 on this Did You Know list.
Yeah, and are yours numbered?
Yep.
Okay, good. I don't have the same list then because mine are numbered. And this one, it talks about income taxes fund some really crazy stuff. And there's not even one function of the general government because most of it goes to debt. I mean, it's, income taxes.
It goes to pay off the Federal Reserve, dude. It goes to pay off all of our interest. All the interest on the Federal Reserve. Anyway, keep going.
You can't even pay it. Every penny of the massive budget passed by the thieves in the outlaw Congress has to be borrowed, obviously. And they do that from China, but I'll get on that later. But it talks about different grants, like the 1.5 million grant for job creation in Belize. In Belize. U.S. government study pays Mexican male prostitutes for not getting STDs. And some of these, they've paid out these grants, and every link is clickable to the story where it came from. And there are Fox and different sites. One of them, they paid 300 and something $1,000 to a sheep shearing family that $303,000 in wool loans to a couple who owned no sheep. Because apparently that's like farmers. There's a subsidy for the farmers. If they don't make a certain amount, then the government will kick in and get it to a certain amount.
Right. Even though they've already got 40 million in the bank because they've been farming for the last 150 years and they own half the fucking state. Right. I got you. Go ahead.
But apparently it's the same thing on wool. So these people pulled the wool over the government's eyes, if you will. And they got sued and everything else. But remember all the stealing, as you work on your income taxes that, you just paid. And the U.S. government spends $121,000 a second. And this is from 2001 figures. So you can probably guess how, it's come up.
Oh, it's tripled probably.
$7 million per minute. That's billion. No. 10 billion.
An hour.
Per day. And then the total budget for 2011 was $3.8 trillion. So there, just the massive amount of numbers. Then there's this little graph, and I know everybody's seen it before, where there's a pile of money. Mm-hmm. And once that pile gets up to $3 trillion, I mean, it's higher than a skyscraper. So how do we get out of this mess? I mean, if that's what they're spending every day, there's ways to do it. I mean, to abolish the nutcases in Congress would be a good start, but then who are you going to replace them with? I mean, that's the bad part about it. But if you remember Prohibition, how people got so upset about Prohibition, why aren't they getting this upset about taxes, which are, unconstitutional, if you will.
And just flagrantly stupid. I mean, come on, for correct.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Anyway, go ahead. Keep going with that list, man.
Americans spent $7 billion over 3 years helping other countries deal with climate change. They spent $3.3 million to improve the quality of media content in Armenia. Government pays $1 million to develop strawberry harvest aiding robots. So, yeah, there is, and again, all this money we have to borrow from somebody every time.
70 cents of every dollar was the last figure I heard. 70 cents of every dollar that the government spends is borrowed. Mm-hmm. It's ridiculous, man. Keep going.
No, that's it.
That's it? That was short, man.
Wasn't a whole long one.
Just enough to piss everybody off, though. Thanks.
It's the absurdity of some of the grants and the government waste that's, in there. They're out to, 1, get elected, 2, to get reelected, and then that's it. They don't care about us.
Mm-mm. Yeah, number 3 is way, way, way down the list.
Yeah. Way after number 1 and number 2.
Yep. That's it's something good that we can spend some time talking about tonight, government waste. If you guys want to talk about it, 718-717-8296. The phones are wide open. If you guys are on ucy.tv and you've got them added on your friends list on Skype and you want to get in on the conversation, hit me up and I'll add you in, because that's what we're going to do. We're just going to rabbit hole for the rest of the night. We got 90 minutes left. I'm going to go into my list. I got 43 things. Actually, I told you guys the first 15 of them, I think.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Not on Monday, but last Friday. I think we did. But anyway, I'm going to go back over those again, because I know some of you were here and some of you weren't here, and you probably forgot them all anyway. So, but here we go. 718-717-8296. The phones are wide open. Did you know your shoes are the first thing people subconsciously notice about you? So always wear nice shoes. If you sit for more than 11 hours a day, there's a 50% chance you'll die within the next 3 years. There are at least 6 people in the world who look exactly like you, and there's a 9% chance that you'll meet one of them in your lifetime. Sleeping without a pillow reduces back pain and keeps your spine stronger. I have not tried that one yet. A person's height is determined by their father, and their weight is determined by their mother. If a part of your body falls asleep, you can almost always wake it up by shaking your head. That does work. I tried it yesterday. It does work. There are 3 things the human brain cannot resist noticing: food, attractive people, and danger. Right-handed people tend to chew food on the right side of their mouth. Putting dry tea bags in gym bags or smelly shoes will absorb the unpleasant odor. According to Albert Einstein, if honeybees were to disappear from the earth, humans would be dead within 4 years. But now we have robo-bees. Thanks, Monsanto. There are so many kinds of apples that if you ate a new one every day, it would take over 20 years to try them all. You can survive without eating for weeks, but you can only live for 11 days if you do not sleep. People who laugh are a lot healthier than those who don't. We all know that one. Mm-hmm. Laziness and inactivity kills just as many people as smoking, which is a lot of people. A human brain has the capacity to store 5 times as much information as is found on Wikipedia. Our brain uses the same amount of power as a 10-watt light bulb. Our body gives us enough heat in 30 minutes to boil 1.5 liters of water. An ovum, egg, is the largest cell, and the sperm is the smallest. Stomach acid, hydrochloric acid, is strong enough to dissolve razor blades. Wonder who found that one out. It takes a 10 to 30 minute walk every day. Oh no, okay. Take a 10 to 30 minute walk every day, and while you walk, smile. It is the ultimate antidepressant. Try that one. Sit in silence for at least 10 minutes every day. When you wake up in the morning, pray to ask God's guidance for your purpose today. Eat more foods that grow on trees and plants, and eat less food that is manufactured in plants. That's a good one. I like that one. Drink green tea and plenty of water. Eat blueberries, broccoli, and almonds. Try to make at least 3 people smile every day. Don't waste your precious energy on gossip, energy vampires, issues of the past, negative thoughts, or things you cannot control. Instead, invest your energy in positive, present moment. Eat breakfast like a king, lunch like a prince, and dinner like a college kid with a maxed out charge card. I've always known that one too. My doctor told me a long time ago, I was really good friends with a physician in the Army. And he told me a long, long time ago, don't ever eat after 4 o'clock. Just don't.
Right.
Don't eat after 4 o'clock. Drink all you want to drink water, drink whatever but don't eat after 4. Life isn't fair, but it's still good. That's true. Life is too short to waste time hating anyone. Forgive them for everything. Don't take yourself so seriously. Nobody else does. You don't have to win every argument. Agree to disagree. Make peace with your past so it won't spoil the present. Don't compare your life to others. You have no idea what their journey is about. No one is in charge of your happiness except for you. Frame every so-called disaster with these 3 words. In 5 years, will any of this matter? Help the needy. Be generous. Be a giver, not a taker. What other people think of you is none of your business. Time heals everything. However good or bad a situation is, it will change. No shit.
Not always better.
Your job won't take care of you when you're sick. Your friends will. Stay in touch with them. Envy is a waste of time. You already have everything you need. Each night before you go to bed, pray to God and be thankful for what you'll accomplish today. Remember that you are too blessed to be stressed. That last one's a good one too. I like that one too. There's quite a few actually very interesting things in there. And the whole eat broccoli and almonds and blueberry, that's really, really good stuff for your body.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Did you know that I think that's the only blue food is blueberries, if I'm not mistaken, naturally. If you think about it.
There was a meme on Facebook that went around a long time ago of a blue watermelon, but that was a Photoshop. Right.
Well, they did test. I mean, they can make anything that they want blue, and it'll taste exactly the same, but it's one of those your mind picks up pretty people and stuff like that. Right. It's the same thing. It picks up and it doesn't look appetizing to anybody.
Right. Blueberries are very good though, actually.
Oh, they're awesome.
So that's that entire list. Thanks for sending me that too, by the way. That was very cool.
Yeah, that's a cool list.
Again, if anybody wants to call in and talk about anything, 718-717-8296. I'm going to try to find the latest updates on the Ebola virus because I think that is a very, very major topic that we need to stay on top of. I did not see anything on my news feeds today about it. However,
I had something on that too.
Did you?
Bring up, yeah. Hold on.
I've got the CDC, but this is from 5 days ago. That's 3 days ago. It said it killed 61 in Guinea. That's way, way, way off. I know the death toll is well over 130 now in Guinea. Oh, man, let's see. Here it is. Update from WHO. This is from 17 April, man. Why are these all 5 days? You'd think that a Ebola virus outbreak, they would update the shit more than once a week. You know what I mean? Seriously. What do we pay these people for? The World Health Organization, they get so much goddamn money from the U.S. government, I can't even, and the CDC, they are funded completely by the United States government.
Have you seen?
Put a fucking update out, people.
Have you seen what it looks like on somebody's body?
Yeah, the lesions and the whole,
the boils and everything else.
They're bleeding internally too. I mean, as soon as you get it, you start bleeding out of every orifice on your body by the time you're done. Bleeding out your eyes, bleeding out your ears, your mouth, your nose, it's just horrible. It's horrible. It liquefies your intestines.
Mm-hmm. And I know, I'm not all about everything. religion, but did you know that there is something somewhat tied to this? Deuteronomy, the Lord will cover your knees and legs with incurable boils. In fact, you will be covered from head to foot. And in Revelations, the first angel went and poured out his bowl on the land, and ugly festering sores broke out on the people who had the mark of the beast and worshipped its image. Not that I'm overly religious, but I did see that today, and it struck me as, that's pretty, it describes it pretty well.
That's scary. That's very scary.
It's interesting.
Yeah. But it's scary.
Yeah, I agree. Because it's ugly. I mean, I saw some pictures on it today, and you wouldn't want to touch anybody with that stuff. I mean, it's big pussy boils and whatnot.
Well, see, now the first outbreak that happened in the Congo, you couldn't get it through the air. You actually had to touch the person's, you had to get, I think it was actually saliva contact or, almost like, getting the AIDS virus or whatever. You had to have body fluid.
Right.
Not this one. This one's transmitted through the air. So I'm wondering about the two cases that we talked about last week, or maybe even Monday. I think we talked about them a little bit on Monday too, was that, they were on a plane and they landed in Italy. And, how many other people on that plane were sitting, within everywhere on that plane? Did they disinfect that plane before they boarded more people on it? And
I'm sure
that's the whole thing. This can spread so goddamn fast. It's not even funny. You can't even calculate it. I mean, when they try to put an outbreak scenario of this kind of, what's the word? I can't even find the word. That's this serious into a computer and have it run an algorithm on it. When it gets to about 10 days, it can't run any longer because there's too many deaths. It can't keep up until it reaches 7.3 billion, right? And that's everybody. And does this thing kill animals too? I mean, what are we talking about here? Don't even know. I don't even know. I haven't even looked at that yet. Can it be passed from human to animal? Is your dog going to have to, be locked in the house with you all the time? I mean, what? Can't let your cat out? Bird might get it. I can't even wrap my mind around what's going to happen. Did they expect this? The assholes that created this in the lab? Is this what their outcome was intended to be?
Oh, I'm sure.
100% mortality? 100%?
Somebody had to develop something like that.
Do you think they're going to be able to get away from it? You think those underground bunkers are going to keep them safe, brother?
There could be a cure for it that only certain people would get. I mean, how deep do you want to go down a rabbit hole? I mean,
So you think they have a antivirus?
Oh, I'm not saying that I think one way or another, but the option is there. I mean, just because they say that they don't, okay, they're a good trusted source. They've proven reliable in the past.
The health map is from March 26th. I can't even fathom this, man.
It says it's still, on CNN, it says it's still limited. The virus itself is still limited to Guinea and Liberia. Doesn't say anything about.
Oh, so I guess the two that they reported in Italy, they just scrubbed that off the news, yeah? They're not even going to talk about it anymore? The whole hospital being closed down and, them not letting anybody come or go out of, that was just bullshit, huh?
Yeah, it's CNN, updated 10 hours ago on the story.
Imagine that. I can't find anything that's within the last 5 days. That's unbelievable to me.
Here, you can drop you a link there. It's good information. I don't know if you want to use it.
No, you didn't.
Hey, he's talking about it at least.
No, that's not happening. That's not happening on my show. That's not that I don't play. No, and I don't think anybody wants to hear that anyway.
No, but I mean the information is, and it actually came from the shtfplan.com is where it came from.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
I think that's the one I read on Monday. I think that's the one that Hecty dropped.
You're right. Yeah, you're right.
Hecty
April 20th.
Hunt. Yeah.
Yep, April 20th. That was the one. It talks about Pisa. This is the only one where the story talks about it being in Pisa, Italy.
No, because Hecty dropped one and Hunt dropped one too. If I go back through my list, I'll find them both because I had them both pulled up and they were both saying about the Pisa.
Yeah.
So there was more than one story. This is the article
you were reading, though. I remember.
Yeah.
Some of the words in it.
Yep. So I don't think that was a bogus story. I think they're just trying to shut it up.
Mm.
But anyway, let's go down another rabbit hole. Because I don't think the Ebola thing's any kind of distraction.
Nah.
But it's going to be very distracting should it continue. But anyway, listen to this happened today. UK jets scrambled to see if two Russian bombers near Scotland. The UK on Wednesday scrambled several Typhoon fighter jets to see off two unidentified aircraft flying near the north of Scotland. UK Defence Ministry spokeswoman told Reuters. The agency said Britain's Royal Air Force later identified the aircraft as Russian Tupolev Tu-95 strategic bombers, commonly known to their NATO reporting name as Bear. The planes were flying in international airspace at all times. They did not go into UK sovereign airspace, the spokeswoman said, adding that there had been 8 similar incidents in 2013. Local media reports claim that the two Russian bombers turned away and flew towards Scandinavia after being contacted by the British jets. So why would you see them off if they were still in international waters? If they were still flying over international waters, what's the problem? You don't want them looking at something? What, hiding something over there? What's the problem? These kind of little kerfluffles piss people off. And that's what starts wars, misconstrue something in the air going 800, 900 miles an hour.
Yeah, that might have 20, 30, 40 years ago. They know what's going on now.
I'm sure. And I'm sure they were in total radio contact the whole time.
Yeah, I still think it's all orchestrated no matter what posturing you're seeing.
And this could be complete propaganda.
Exactly.
There could have been no planes up there. They could just drop this story to get everybody's panties in a twist over in Scotland. Bomb them! Bomb them! That kind of shit. Putin's being an asshole. Four wounded as Israel strikes target Gaza. Medics. They were shooting at medics. Israel launched an airstrike on Wednesday in the northern Gaza Strip, wounding 4 people, Reuters reported, citing medical officials in the Hamas-ruled territory. There was no immediate word on the intensities or the identities of those wounded in the airstrike. The Israeli military has not immediately commented on the attack, which came 2 days after militants in the Palestinian enclave launched rockets into southern Israel. So the Palestinians threw some fireworks up in the air, and Israel hits back with F-16s and guided missiles and 500-pound bombs. I'll bet you one airstrike puts more weapons and more explosive power into Palestine than they fire over that wall with their rockets all year. I'll bet 25 of their rockets wouldn't add up to a 500-pound bomb. You know what I mean? That's just...
Well, enough other people have said that we need a war to blame, whether it be a financial collapse or, they need a war. I mean, they're beating a war drum. Syria is not dead in the water by any
now they're
means.
trying to say that he's throwing, chlorine gas?
Yeah, more chemicals.
Right. Well, they're over there taking all of his chemical weapons away. He's going to go ahead and fire off more? Are you serious? Do you think anybody on the planet believes that, except for the guy that wrote the fucking story?
Well, the sheeple believe it over here, and that gives them ammunition to, it's just like they tried when Putin stood up to us last time. I mean, you didn't get the American people behind this one. That was the whole reason it faltered, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just that's a damn shame. Mm-hmm. Everything that goes on over there every day is a damn shame.
Yeah, I wish we weren't so concerned with it.
Yeah, because you don't hear anything. You don't hear anything in the United States unless they're firing rockets over the wall. Then it's damn those Palestinians, kill them all, kill them. That's what the Israelis been trying to do for a long time. But, God bless them Palestinians. They're hanging in there. They ain't giving up.
And I mean, shouldn't.
No. Australia is now investigating unidentified material washed up on shore as maybe MH370 material. So the missing plane's now supposedly washing up on the shores of Australia.
Since you mentioned that, I saw a story on it today, and I can't remember if you dropped it to me or maybe it was yesterday, that talked about, the satellite footage that there's people conspiring in their minds and talking about it, is that the whole thing was, China has given up some of their satellite footage of the area.
For 48 hours.
Right. According to this. And then when they asked the U.S. to give up,
no.
They said, no, we look, there's nothing unusual, nothing to see, nothing to see here. Keep moving.
Well, let us look. No.
Yep. No.
Come on. We gave you art. No. Oh, come on, man. It's coming. No.
So there were people postulating that this just might be it was to pull China out, to see what kind of technology they got. If
they also have half of their Navy spread all over hell's creation, down there looking for that. Yeah. Looking for that plane.
And we sent 2 ships. And I think
they have 139 people that belong to their country on that plane. So, yeah, they were like, where's our people, man? We want our people back. Where's the plane? Where's the plane, man?
And the article did mention about that China's, army has now, Navy, is spread out a little bit more, because of this.
Well, here's this little blurb. The Australian agency coordinating the search for Malaysian Airlines Flight 370 has said unidentified material has washed ashore in Western Australia. Experts are investigating whether it's related to the missing airplane. The Voice of America radio reported. VOA shit. Lie. The Joint Agency Coordination Center said photographs of the material are being examined to determine whether further physical analysis is required and if there is any relevance to the search of missing flight MH370. The Voice of America. Are they still in business? Seriously? Anyway. Keep going. Malaysia cabinet approves international investigation into missing flight. Oh, this continues on with this. Malaysia's cabinet approved on Wednesday the appointment of an international team to investigate the disappearance of Malaysian Airlines flight MH370, Reuters reported. The main purpose of such a team is to evaluate, investigate, and determine the actual cause of the accident, so similar accidents could be avoided in the future. We don't even know it's an accident. It just disappeared. What are you going to do, stop black holes if it flew into one? Are you going to call ET and tell them to leave our planes alone if it was abducted by aliens? What? Until you find the goddamn thing, you don't know what happened to it.
Did we not read, though, that Boeing received the seventh ping that verified that it did land and the engine shut down and everything else? And now, can you touch on that 45-day rule?
Oh, yeah. Hang on just a second. Let me finish this up real quick. The country's acting transport minister, oh boy, Mr. Hussein, I'm not going to try that first name, was the one that said that they needed to evaluate, investigate, and determine. Let's see. The government has had talks with Malaysian state oil firm Petronas and other entities to expand the deep sea search for the missing plane in the southern Indian Ocean. So now they're going to get an oil firm involved in it. We didn't find a plane. We found some new oil. Okay, so the 45-day rule is this. There is an international law. It's not a United States law. It's an international law that says that after a plane crash, incident, whatever, the families cannot do anything as far as filing lawsuits or anything for 45 days to allow the entire investigation to culminate and come up with a who's a what's it, right? So that they know who to point the finger at and whatever else. That 45 days is up. So now the families of a lot of these victims, missing personnel, whoever, whatever, are starting to file lawsuits against Boeing, against Malaysia Airlines, against who made the engines? General Electric?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So they're trying to go after everybody. Everybody they can get their fingers on. The lawyers are lining up because there's a whole lot of family members that want to know what the hell happened. So does this man right here behind this microphone, I want to know where this plane is. I want to know what happened to this plane. I want to know if it ever existed at all. So we're about ready to find out if one of these lawyers can actually get into a courtroom, right? I'm hoping. Discovery, right?
Gotta hope.
Listen to this. We were talking about Ukraine here just a minute ago. Okay. I'm just rolling through some headlines here because nobody's calling my show. 718-717-8296 if anybody wants to talk about anything at all. I don't even give a shit if it's about Bundy. If you still want to dive into Bundy and what's going on out there, go ahead and give me a call. I'll give you some airtime. Anything else that's on your mind? 718-717-8296. We still got an hour to fill. China's investigating reports that chlorine canisters bearing the name of the country's largest arms maker was used in a gas attack in Syria this month. China's foreign ministry said on Wednesday, opposition activists in the rebel-held village of Kfar Zita in the central province of Hama uploaded a video of people choking and being fed oxygen following what they said were bombs dropped from a helicopter on April 11th and 12th. A partially exploded canister was shown with the chemical symbol for chlorine along with the name of a Chinese arms manufacturer, Norinco. The authenticity of the video was not verified, and Norinco, known as China's China North Industries Group Corporation, I guess that's how they get Norinco out of it, has not commented on the reports. So there's your whole chlorine gas thing. Chinese chlorine gas. Come on, man. This propaganda shit's got to stop, man. The only reason that they're pushing all this is because they want that country under UN control. They want it under UN control. They want a puppet government in there, just like they put a puppet government in the Ukraine. People are bitching about that guy. He doesn't know shit about Shinola. He's not saying, he's not whatever. He's reading off of what they're told. Tell him to read, you know?
He no more gives a shit happy, though.
Well,
you know that the old guys out.
Some of them are, some of them aren't. You know, the goddamn country split in half. Crimea said, screw you, we're going with Russia. It's not over there. It's not over by a long shot, I promise you. Saudi Arabia is reporting 11 new MERS cases. Saudi Arabia on Wednesday announced 11 new cases of Middle East respiratory syndrome, including a 13-year-old child. The new cases bring to 272 the total number of infections, including 81 deaths registered across the kingdom. The country is the worst hit by MERS, which was first detected in eastern Saudi Arabia in September of 2012. Most of the latest cases in Riyadh and the commercial hub of Jeddah, with one case of a Muslim holy city of Mecca. So that's still out there, killing people. MERS, Middle East Respiratory Syndrome. Wonder who developed that in what lab.
Yeah, that stays over there, though, a lot. I've noticed. I mean, well, you know, and
those people,
namesake.
They travel quite a bit, too, so it's kind of funny.
That's why a lot of people didn't go to Mecca last year. It was because of that disease. I remember Potter Blog talking about it.
Mm-hmm. 2 NASA astronauts have taken a short spacewalk outside the ISS to replace a failed computer that serves as a backup to critical control systems, including the outpost solar panel wings. Flight engineer Rick Mastracchio and Steve Swanson had expected to float outside for 2.5 hours, but managed to replace the failed computer, which failed on April 11th, and get back into the station within an hour. Nice.
Think they got any UFO pics?
I don't know. Maybe they were just out there hanging out, having a cup of coffee. Reuters reports they replaced the computer, which is about the size of a small microwave oven. Involved just 3 bolts, hardly anything for a spacewalk chore. The new one tested fine, nice and clean, great job. Canadian astronaut Jeremy Hansen from NASA Mission Control radioed the astronauts as they prepared to close the hatch. 3 bolts, holding a very important computer onto the side of the International Space Station. Way to go, engineers.
Best story out of America today.
Mm-hmm.
Georgia governor, did you hear about this?
Oh, the guns everywhere bill?
That is the best thing that happened in America today.
Read that story. Read it.
At noon today, Georgia Governor Nathan Deal is scheduled to sign the sweeping legislation into law, one of the most permissive state gun laws in the nation. It will allow licensed owners to carry firearms into more public places than at any time in the past century, including bars, government buildings that don't have security checkpoints. The law also authorizes school districts to appoint staffers to carry firearms. It also allows churches to opt in if they want to allow weapons. Bars could already opt in to allow weapons, but under the new law, they must opt out if they want to bar weapons. So it's an automatic, you had to bar out. Permit holders who accidentally bring a gun to an airport security checkpoint will now be allowed to pick up their weapon and leave with no criminal penalty. And that's at Atlanta, where a record 111 guns were found last year. No town in the U.S. has been as public about its support for guns.
Wait. Hang on a second. I had to unmute just for, because I was doing something.
Mm-hmm.
The TSA got 111 guns out of the Atlanta International Airport last year.
Hartsfield at Jackson International Airport. A record 111 guns were found at the TSA screening areas last year alone.
What'd they do with those guns?
Well, now they'll have to give them back, but I'm sure these ones, I'm sure they got destroyed so they wouldn't end up in the wrong people's hands.
Oh, sure.
I'm sure.
Absolute. Yeah. Okay. Since the TSA has been incepted in 03, I think was when they started them, something like that. So a little over 10 years, 400 of their officers have gone to prison for theft, drug running, prostitution, harassment, you name it. 400. You know how many criminals how many terrorists they've caught? Zip.
Zero.
Nada.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, Jimmy, if this is the price we have to pay for security.
Freedom!
Because they'll turn around and say, well, how many high level attacks have you seen? We've stopped them all. That's their response.
The only thing they managed to do was capture a dude's fart on infrared video.
That was pretty funny.
It was funny. Anyway, go ahead.
No, just to finish out the article, no town in the U.S. has been as public about its support for guns as Kennesaw, population of 30,000, where city leaders for 30 years have required that every household have at least one gun.
Yep, Kennesaw, Georgia.
Yep, and I'm sure crime is pretty low there too.
I would imagine so, yeah.
Yep. So that was the end of the article. That was my feel-good story for the day. I read that and I was like, cool. I'd like to see if they come to Georgia and try the Connecticut.
Register your dangerous-looking black firearms, please.
Well, you notice they started with one of the whitest states in the United States, known for
one of the most liberal.
High money. Yeah, exactly. Vast population of rich people from New York. Yeah. So I don't think it'd go over well in the Duck Dynasty neighborhoods.
No. Okay, let's do some rabbit holing now. I'm going to hit some other headlines here and stuff that I saw. These are longer stories now, so maybe it'll chew up some more of the clock. Since still nobody's calling my show. 718-717-8296. If you guys got anything you want to speak about.
I dropped you that one. I guess you don't want to talk about that tonight.
Shit. No. You talking about
your Rand Tool thing? I dropped your link on that because I think it's fascinating, and you're an expert on it. And when I was reading,
I'm not an expert.
When I was reading that thing, I was like, "Dude, this is unreal."
It is very unreal, and yes, we'll hit that in just a minute. I do want to throw this one out there because this is a really good headline I just found. Family awarded $3 million in first U.S. fracking trial. Pay attention, everybody. This is setting a precedent. After 3 years of legal wrangling, a Texas family has won its case against a company engaged in hydraulic fracturing near their home. The family, which suffered tangible health deteriorations after the fracking began, was awarded $3 million. A Dallas jury ruled Tuesday in favor of the Parr family, which sued Aruba Petroleum in 2011 after each member of the family noticed a decline in health that, their attorneys argued in court, was the result of dozens of gas wells surrounding their home in Wise County, Texas. The family was awarded nearly $3 million in what is believed to be the first fracking trial in U.S. history. They are vindicated, the family's attorney David Matthews wrote in a blog post. Way to go, Dave. I'm glad you won this case, brother. I'm really proud of the family, what they went through, and what they're still going through, he said. I'm not going to take it anymore. It takes guts to say that I'm going to stand here and protect my family from an invasion of our rights to enjoy our property. It's not easy to go through a lawsuit and to have your personal life uncovered and exposed to the extent this family went through. Aruba Petroleum will appeal the jury's decision, according to MSNBC. The company argues that there are dozens of gas drilling operations in the area, thus it's difficult to tell who is responsible for the family's degenerative health. Other companies that own wells around Parr's homes settled with the family. The Parrs, Bob, Lisa, and their daughter Emma, said that their health suffered beginning just months after hydraulic fracturing operations started in their area, which was in 2008. Lisa said that her breathing was impaired. She was inflicted with nausea and headaches. Bob reported suddenly having around 3 nosebleeds a week, an anomaly compared to the rest of his life, he said. And Emma also reported nosebleeds, as well as nausea and rashes. She was diagnosed with asthma soon after the drilling began. They can't drink their well water, and they can't breathe the air around there without feeling sick. The lawsuit was definitely not the first levied against fracking companies over health impacts, though it has become common for plaintiffs in such cases to settle with companies along with agreeing to strict gag orders. Last year, a Pennsylvania family reached $750,000 settlement with gas company Range Resources. Let's see, suing them for environmental and health impacts caused by their fracking operations in the rich gas Marcellus Shale. Chris and Stephanie Howlwich recovered. No member of their family, even their 7 and 10-year-old children, could comment on the case in any fashion whatsoever. That's the gag order that they're under. Anti-fracking advocates see the Parr's victory as a sign that energy companies, which have worked obsessively to shield themselves from public harm associated with fracking, may not hold as much sway in the future. I hope this sets a huge, huge precedent, and I hope we run some of these companies out of business. Keep suing, people. I'm pretty sure that Mr. Matthews will take your case. When evidence of fracking impacts are shown to an impartial jury in a court of law, they find them to be real and significant. That's good. That's Earthworks Energy Program Director Bruce Brazel. He's the one that said that. And it shows when the fracking industry is reluctant to allow lawsuits in this type to go to trial. That absolutely, yeah, if they want to settle, it's because they know they're wrong. They want to give you hush money and shut you up and send you on your way. Probably to buy a new house somewhere else so they can have the rest of your damn land. Right? Mm-hmm. Basil said companies settle out of court, but only with accompanying gag orders that helps hide the fracking effects. Meanwhile, he said industry and government continue to insist fracking is harmless. We hope the lawsuit will make regulators in Texas and around the country re-examine their assumptions about fracking's dangers and their responsibility to keep the public safe. To unleash natural gas deep underground, fracking requires large volumes of water, blah, blah, blah. We all know.
Haven't I heard the government say if you don't have anything to hide, you don't have anything to worry about, or right. Some saying what's up with the gag orders then?
Yeah, exactly.
If you got nothing to hide, then what's a gag order about?
Okay. We're going to jump on this Chanute story. Just for full disclosure, the town that I'm about to speak about is where I spent the majority of my life. Well, not the majority of my life, but I grew up there. My family home is still there. I have some friends that are still in this town. And this is one of the many, 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 many reasons that I left is because of this place, this Chanute Air Force Base. Now, when I was growing up, Chanute kept Rantoul going. That government money in and out of there every month. I mean, it helped build a lot of things in Rantoul. And when the federal government came in there and closed Chanute, they did our town an extreme disservice. It was like they thumbed their nose at everybody. And then a few ass clowns in town decided that they had enough money that they were just going to carve that base up amongst themselves and try to get rich off of it. And they did not. They failed. One of them miserably. And that makes me happy. But anyway, I digress. The story I'm about to read you is from the D.C. Bureau. It's by Bob Bajic. Rantoul, Illinois. Chanute Air Force Base, closed for more than 2 decades, remains an environmental threat to the health and safety of hundreds of thousands of Illinois residents. It is a case study of how the Air Force and Pentagon use their national security cloak to break agreements that can break local communities. Chanute's history. The United States Army decided in 1917 that East Central Illinois was the ideal location for its 3rd training airfield to support the World War I effort. It intended Chanute Airfield, later renamed Chanute Air Force Base, to be a temporary installation, but like so many other government installations, it survived and grew, largely because it served a practical function. It was centrally located and had superior training officers and distinguished alumni. The temporary barracks in the 1930s became permanent during World War II. In the early 1950s, Chanute Air Force Base prepared tens of thousands of airmen for the Korean War. During the Vietnam War, it served as a training center. In the 60s, the Cold War heated up. It became home to the Minuteman Intercontinental Ballistic Missile Maintenance Program and the Air Force Fired Training Program, located in the center of the base and the southeast corner known as the 900 area. Military flight operations ceased in 71, an induction of Chanute's waning strategic importance. The base almost closed in 79, but the U.S. government decided to keep it open. Capital expansion projects were completed in the 80s, costing taxpayers tens of millions of dollars. But these projects did not stop the Department of Defense in 1988 from listing Chanute as one of the 17 bases to be closed. The base, having trained more than 2 million servicemen and women over the years, was decommissioned on September 30th, 1993. In the first round of DoD base closures designed to save the federal government money after the Cold War ended. When Chanute was decommissioned, it took away the nearby village of Rantoul's major economic driver. The base was the largest employer in Champaign County, second only to the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. The Air Force downplayed the environmental contamination it was leaving behind and emphasized the economic boom that could happen if the base's land was transferred to the town. I gotta laugh for just a minute. Excuse me. Now here we go. This is gonna get into some. I'm gonna have to make some comments from time to time during this article, right? Thanks for passing this to me, by the way.
Yeah, because you know when they're full of shit.
Yes. Former Mayor Katie Potagrossi. Now I got to tell you something about Katie. Everybody in town knows Katie. Katie Potagrossi is the only woman in my life I've ever seen eat a foot-long Subway sandwich in less than a minute. Katie Potagrossi told the crowd at Chanute's closing ceremony that there's a new beginning for our community and redevelopment is on the way. According to the Chanute Air Force Base's 75-year pictorial history by Daniel Wickhorst, published in 92, the economic boom never happened. Rantoul today. Just off Interstate 57, Rantoul is an economically challenged blue-collar community in a predominantly agricultural region. The village shrank from about 25,000 to under 13,000 after the base closed. With a surplus of vacant rental properties and homes, the school district lost large portions of its tax base. It went from economic prosperity to poverty in quick succession. Vacant housing became occupied with Section 8, low-income tenants. Crime sharply increased.
Sounds like mini Detroit.
Yeah, shit. Large businesses were reluctant to invest in the community. In the ghostly downtown, several of the buildings are vacant or dilapidated. Sub businesses are only open part-time now.
Now, the downtown looked like Mayberry almost, like a quaint, nice downtown.
If you're looking at the picture now, I need to drop this in chat, I think. There's a picture right there of downtown. The building on the right, the dark maroon colored building with the really nice awning, that's Dina's.
Well,
my mom used to shop there all the time. Her mother used to shop there. My grandmother used to shop there all the time. Dina and Wayne Rasmus were two of the nicest people I have ever met in my life. And Dina, a great big Greek woman, she would give the shirt off of her back to anybody, man. I mean, anybody. After Dina died, her daughter tried to keep it going, but it just wouldn't take. I mean, you know, they sold higher end clothes and people just didn't have the money to spend no more. And about 2 years ago now, they closed it. It's all boarded up now. You can see the windows upstairs are boarded up. The windows downstairs are boarded up. It's gone. It's gone. The aquarium across the street where that awning is, that's gone. You know, the awning's still there because they didn't take it down. But, the whole town is just, I mean, every place that there was worth shopping at is done.
And I'm sure a lot of listeners have many places like this within 25, 50 miles of them too. But continue.
Okay. From citydata.com. States Rantoul's median household income in 2011 at $32,498, well below the $53,000 for Illinois and Champaign County. While the median home value was $85,000, it's $178,500 for the rest of Illinois. The Census Bureau estimates that Rantoul's poverty rate from 2008 to 2012 was 27.1%.
Still lower than the United States.
13.7 in Illinois average. Over a quarter of the town is below the poverty line. Now you see why we moved, Mom? She knows. She knows why we moved. More than 40% of Rantoul's residents are African American, Asian, Latino, or multiracial. The village increased its police force to 33 full-time officers to control the violent drug-fueled crime. It purchased numerous vacant properties suspected of being used for drug trafficking and some gang-like activities, only to demolish them. Village leaders argued it was necessary for safety and economic reasons. Rantoul failed to attract United Airlines and other big businesses in the 90s and 2000s. And in the early 2000s, Rantoul did everything it could to attract a pork plant. It secured a grant worth millions from the state, and the company received some tax incentives. The regional plant went bankrupt in 2009, laying off 215 people. The village recruited Rantoul Food, a pork supplier, in 2010 to replace most of those lost jobs, and I think that one is on the razor's edge of going bankrupt. Over the past 6 years, the only other noticeable economic developments were the Walmart Supercenter on the town's west side and Bell Sports, which hires nothing but immigrants. A manufacturer of sports equipment and clothes. Easton Bell. Everybody knows Bell. The jobs at these companies are mainly minimum wage, maybe $15 an hour. Managerial positions are scarce. There's a doctor's office, a couple of small private law firms, and a dental office, but Doug White, the dentist, retired in January after 56 years. He was my dentist, one of the another very, very beautiful human being, him and his wife both. Police are paid well. The school districts provide decent salaries, but teachers are compensated well below Illinois averages. The sprawling former Air Force base, AT&T, set up some operations out there near the hangars. A couple of base facilities store overstock items, and there's an aerospace museum at Grissom Hall. Whoopee! Farmers grow crops on the base property. It has a golf course Some land has been bought for residential development, and people continue to live on the base in disgusting housing.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Was there, when it was open and active, I know a lot of military people on their last duty station. I mean, they'd like to retire where they are. Is there a lot of retirees that were around there that, you know, relied on the commissary and a BX and stuff like that, and now all that's gone? Or
Right. And they moved off.
Okay.
Most of them moved on.
Yeah.
All the people that built Rantoul are either dead, too old to care anymore, or have moved on. The only people left in that town are the ass clowns that want to get rich off of the town. And I'm talking about the town council, the city council, the board of trustees, the mayor, the police chief, all the shitheads. And, you know, a bunch of scofflaws and degenerates and handouts. That's all that town is anymore. If I missed anybody, I'm sorry. But, you know, Rich Campbell, if you're listening to me, brother, get your ass out of that town. And Dave, you know where to come when you're ready. Back to the story. But a key reason Rantoul, only 130 miles south of Chicago, cannot get major economic investment is because the Chanute Air Force Base remains highly contaminated. Most of Chanute's land has residential building restrictions and is so polluted that no one can legally sell it for residential development.
And that's the whole crux of the story right here.
Yeah, we're getting ready to dive right in.
Yep.
Cover up rather than clean up. I wish I had the videotape that I took before I left. I don't have it. It didn't turn out. They did some huge digging on the south side of this base just before I moved. I mean, they dug an enormous hole in this farmer's field
To bury something.
and covered up some shit on the south side of that base. And I want to know why. Because they didn't dig anything out. They didn't take anything out. All they did was throw about 10 feet of dirt over the top of it. I want to know what it was. Anyway. Top Air Force and Illinois officials, including members of the governor's office, state environmental and local community leaders, have engaged in a cover-up of a major environmental threat from a long-shuttered base. The local newspaper, the Rantoul Press, and the News Gazette rarely report on Chanute's environmental contamination. No one wants to scare away possible investors or bear the cleanup costs. The responsible authorities downplay the problems, even though Chanute's closure has left Rantoul and surrounding community an economic cripple. The motive for keeping news of Chanute's toxic legacy quiet is simply a part of a so far futile effort to attract non-existent business expansion. Most area residents know Rantoul is a place where Chanute Air Force Base was located. Most of the former base's 2,174 acres of land have been transferred to Rantoul, private businesses, and residential development.
So there's residential houses right in the area.
There is housing less than 500 yards from where this contamination is. Duplexes, a kids housing program where, oh man, they don't have parents, but they've got like a house. I can't think of the name of the goddamn organization now.
Like some foster care thing.
It's not foster care though. It's like these people are 18, 19, 20. Some of them are handicapped, but they can live on their own, but they got to have like a house.
Yeah, it's like a halfway house.
Mom or whatever. Yeah, right.
Yeah,
okay.
It's like a halfway house. Yeah.
Right up the road from here, man. Right up the road from all this shit. I'm telling you, less than 500 yards. Excuse me. In the early 2000s, Rantoul unknowingly bought structures containing asbestos from the Air Force and burned the buildings without remitting the problem. The village paid fines to the Illinois EPA. The Air Force numerous times tried to sell land to Rantoul without remediating the environmental problems, and also constantly fought the village and U.S. EPA on what areas of study needed to be cleaned up. The village and its residents would like to thank Chanute, or would like to think Chanute. Would like to think that Chanute does not concern them anymore, that the old military installation is a withering relic of a bygone age. But Chanute's toxic legacy is still seriously threatening the health of those who remain in the area. Eyewitness testimony coupled with countless federal and state documents show Chanute Air Force Base still has massive chemical contamination with continuing polluted groundwater migration. You people know what that is, right? That means it gets into your drinking source. There is also an indication that groundwater contamination has seeped miles or so south of the base's property lines, polluting several private wells with carcinogenic dioxin. These wells soon might also be threatened by trichloroethylene, an industrial solvent used by the military to degrease metal. In 1980, the Congress passed CERCLA, the Comprehensive Environmental Response Compensation and Liability Act, commonly known as the Superfund. You guys all remember, what was it, Love Canal? Yeah? Everybody remembers Love Canal. That sucked up most of the Superfund money. To investigate how chemicals were used, stored, disposed of in the past, present procedures, and to see how these practices negatively impacted areas and local environments. The Superfund program involves some of the most contaminated sites, usually at dumps, former military bases, or closed industrial facilities. Chanute, like hundreds of military bases around the world, ceased operations to save the federal government money and also to limit the environmental contamination the military produced with chemicals utilized during base activities. 124 U.S. military bases have been decommissioned during 5 rounds of closures. More than 130 are Superfund sites. The law stated liability for any chemical and environmental contamination occurring during or from base operations would fall on DoD, Department of Defense. Most every major military base has a Superfund site with trichloroethylene and other contaminations. But by design or omission, the Chanute Air Force Base did not receive that designation. As a result, the area's groundwater supply is threatened by dangerous chemicals seeping into a creek, a man-made lake, and several aquifers that provide water to the region. Chanute should have been a Superfund site. Like most bases, Chanute was inspected under CERCLA's provisions in 1983, and the resulting environmental impact study showed extensive contamination from herbicides, pesticides, and chemical burning and spills and disposal practices. Investigations continued through the 80s and 90s, even after the 93 closure. Chanute received a 48.3 hazardous ranking system out of 100, which is significantly higher than the 28.5 minimum required for possible inclusion on the Superfund's priority list. If an area was approved for NPL status, it received a better financed and more concentrated cleanup effort. In 2000, the U.S. and Illinois EPA recommended part of Chanute, designated Operation Unit 2, OU2, on the southeastern part of the base to be placed on the national priority list. That part consists of 4 uncapped landfills, fire training areas 1 and 2, and buildings 916 through 995, which contain either oil, water separators, or underground storage tanks, sludge pits, or combinations of these items. They clean up all kinds of shit on that base all over the place, man. I can remember them going out and the fire departments, you know, they had a training service out there, and they would pour this shit into this great big ring of concrete in the middle of the field, right? And they'd light it on fire. Boom! And that shit would fucking take off, boy, and there'd be thick ass black smoke just pouring out of that thing. And then they'd go running out there with their little fire trucks, and they'd squirt around, drive around, squirt it, put it out, and then they'd light it off again. Boom! And they'd go out and do it again. And I mean, that shit was puking smoke for hours. I wonder what they were burning now.
Asbestos.
According to the NPL proposal, migration of contamination from the sources in OU2 to Salt Fork Creek is the primary concern. Although each of these resources potentially contaminates the creek via runoff and drainage ditches, the migration of contamination from landfills 1 and 2 is the most critical threat for 4 reasons. Salt Fork runs directly between 2 landfills. The groundwater table in some areas of landfills is shallow, as only a foot below the surface. Groundwater in the Wisconsin till flows into Salt Fork Creek, and leachate has been observed seeping from the banks of the Salt Fork Creek near landfills 1 and 2. Leachate. That's, how do I describe it? Leachate is what happens to garbage as it decomposes and breaks down and starts dumping all of the crap out of it that won't just go and turn into soil, right? That's what leachate is. As mentioned, the groundwater table is as shallow as 1 foot, and the creek runs between 2 of the landfills. Illinois EPA found the migration of hazardous substances from landfills 1 and 2 going into Salt Fork Creek sediments, including I'm going to have trouble pronouncing some of these chemicals. Bis-2-xenoethyl phthalate, polyacrylic aromatic, hydrocarbons, and lead concentrations at elevated levels. And we all know how dangerous lead is. Various Air Force and EPA documents confirm the waste and other contaminants migrating into the Salt Fork. Numerous studies from the Air Force and EPA, state and federal EPA, show that the Heritage Lake and Salt Fork Creek have received landfill runoff for 2 reasons. The shallow water table and the groundwater flows in a southeastern direction from the Wisconsin aquifer and south-southwest from the Illinois aquifer. I used to fish at Heritage Lake. I never ate anything out of there, thank God. Everything I ever caught was too small to keep. But I know people that have. I know some people went fishing there simply because they didn't have a job and they couldn't eat unless they caught something out of that lake and took it home that night and ate. Man, I can't, this just, excuse me. Numerous studies from the Air Force and state, federal EPA, I already said that one. Some farmers south of Chanute use the shallow Wisconsin aquifer and Illinois aquifer for agricultural irrigation. But it's okay because they're just dumping it on Monsanto corn and beans, right?
That's funny.
Thus placing the food supply in jeopardy, as if it isn't already. Salt Fork Creek was found in the 80s and 90s to have been polluted from landfills, but was never remediated. Never remediated. According to the fall of 2006 issue of Centerviews, an Air Force magazine, the creek is fine, despite many chemicals that have found their way into the creek sediments and bank soil, including dioxin, the metals aluminum and arsenic, and pesticide DDT. According to the article, URS Corporation's Margaret Roy, a defense contractor, bitch. The Salt Fork Creek pollutants are naturally occurring metals, and other chemicals are commonly associated with agricultural runoff, street runoff, and atmospheric deposition. Air pollution, right? Chemtrails, right? A November 6, 1987 article in the Pace Center, Chanute's weekly newspaper, quoted Center Commander Brigadier General Joe McKean saying there is not and has not been any cause for concern about Chanute Air Force Base drinking water. All the studies indicate absolutely no reason for any concern about on-base water pollution.
Well, there you go.
McKean was responding to Chanute being listed as an Air Force Times article, potential groundwater contamination site. In a pace-setter December 4, 1987 follow-up, Chanute-based Chief of Environmental and Contract Planning Bob Hanna said, "At some sites, no action may be required. Perhaps we will just continue to monitor the sites. In some cases, cleanup or neutralization may be appropriate. Each site will be evaluated on its own merits and dealt with accordingly." In the section of the base called the 900 area, extensive engine testing was done in the 1960s. Engines were sometimes ran until they blew up to test their working limits. During that time, there was a rumor that one high-ranking official would not drink the base water.
Well, that was probably only before the other guy pronounced it safe.
Yeah, that's right. Former Illinois Governor George Ryan wanted Chanute placed on the NPL because the state and Air Force would not agree on how to clean it up. For 70 years, from the closure in 93 until the presidential election in 2000, the Air Force fought the NPL nomination, fearing the listing would be a stigma, citing its exemplary cooperation in Chanute's chemical cleanup, despite the minimal action that was taken. During the George W. Bush administration, the DoD claimed victory over the EPA. Under President Bush, the U.S. Office of Management and Budget mediated the EPA and Air Force dispute and ruled in favor of the Air Force in 2003. Congratulations.
And that's the lady that's now in charge of the Health and Human Services.
Yeah, exactly. The base realignment and closure cleanup team signed an agreement to have Chanute cleaned up by October 1st of 2005 or be placed on the NPL. That date has come and gone, and Chanute has neither been cleaned up nor placed on the NPL. And I can personally verify that. The only people I've seen working on that base was, like I said, 6 months before I moved. They were out there for a number of weeks, and then they were gone. They showed up with brand new equipment. I'm talking probably $10 million worth of excavators and mine trucks, and then disappeared.
Everything should be safe now.
Chanute's TCE soil and groundwater contamination was worse than expected after the Air Force won the NPL decision. Polluted sites, including TCE pits, spills at buildings 747, 975, and 995, and a couple of hangars, and extensive groundwater contamination in the 900 area. The Agency for Toxic Substances and Disease Registry shows TCE and its breakdown products such as 1,2-diochloroethylene and vinyl chloride as the only contaminant that warranted further evaluation. This decision was based on the frequency and magnitude of measured concentrations and the proximity of the TCE groundwater plumes to the former base boundary. This company collected samples from the Illinois aquifer more than 60 feet below ground surface to 140 feet below ground surface with 54 samples from 15 wells from 2000 to 04. Trichloroethylene was detected in 5 of the 15 wells, but was not detected at above 1 part per billion. Trichloroethylene in the Wisconsin aquifer, 10 to 35 feet below ground surface water, was found to have 5 parts per billion at 5 sites on the base's northern boundary and dozens in the 900 area. Trichloroethylene plumes do pose health concern for the future and require future monitoring of plume movement to prevent it from moving to private wells south of Chanute. Trichloroethylene is found in groundwater under the laundromat that was by Lincoln's Challenge Academy, a half-year program started right after the base closed where troubled urban youth go to straighten up their lives and get their GED degree. The laundromat was demolished in 2011. Trichloroethylene was detected in surface water and sediment at Salt Fork Creek in 3 of 14 samples, with 59 parts per billion the maximum reading. 59 parts per billion. According to the ASTDR report, based on groundwater flow and sources of groundwater contamination, they identified landfills at the southeastern portion of Chanute Air Force Base as possible sources of groundwater contamination that flow beyond the site boundaries and impact private drinking water wells, and trichloroethylene had a toxic plume of 110,000 parts per billion in the Wisconsin aquifer. 110,000 parts per billion. I'm thinking that might make your hair stand up just a tiny bit. Besides groundwater and soil contamination, other toxic concerns are the enormous White Hall, a 500,000 square foot steam plant in the base's center. Now, ladies and gentlemen, White Hall used to be one of the largest structures on a military installation anywhere on the planet. It was a beautiful building. It now has trees growing out of it. No glass. All the windows are broken. Basement's flooded. It's a wreck of a piece of shit. Both buildings are vacant and contain asbestos, mold, standing groundwater, and other possible pollutants. These buildings need to be razed and demolished. Some of their glass windows are broken, some my ass. So vapor from volatile organic chemicals can seep out into the air. These large structures are near residential areas and Grissom Hall, where in addition to public museum, rental residents attend theater productions. Okay, now we're going to get into really nasty stuff.
I thought that was.
If you think TCE is bad, wait till you hear this. Are you listening, Mom? Admiral Elmo Zumwalt Jr. authorized the use of Agent Orange, a herbicide in Vietnam, to defoliate the jungles, lost his son, Lieutenant Zumwalt III, to leukemia. Zumwalt believed his son's death was a direct result of that order. His testimony to Congress on March 5th of 1990 became known as the Zumwalt Report. The Admiral stated it was irresponsible to chronically ill veterans and their families for the federal government to continue to deny Agent Orange's toxicity. In June of 2013, a former airman named Michael Glazer visited Rantoul Press, the town's weekly newspaper owned by the News Gazette, to discuss the concerns about Chanute's dire environmental situation. Glazer, who now lives in South Florida and drove more than 1,200 miles to Rantoul, served at Chanute from 63 to 64 as a young man. Glazer was part of the entomology department, where he sprayed herbicides and pesticides to control weeds and pests. Glazer said he sprayed the phenoxylic herbicides 2,4-D and 2,4,5-T on base and frequently mixed them. Glazer said this toxic mixture not only officially called Agent Orange when he served in 63 and 64, but was the code word during Vietnam for servicemen to identify the chemical product by the orange strips on the barrels. On Monsanto's website, it defines Agent Orange as a 50-50 mixture of 2,4-D and 2,4,5-T. Glazer also said he buried unused barrels of what would later be known as Agent Orange by Lake Heritage, a former sludge pit by the 4 landfills in the 900 area that became a man-made lake in 1984. To prove his assertions, the 69-year-old veteran produced his Veterans Disability Papers from the Department of Defense Affairs Board and Veterans Appeals, which stated he had cancer of the bladder, prostate, urethra, as a result of exposure to hazardous chemicals during his service and time at Chanute. The document further states Glazer was exposed to hazardous chemicals and insecticides used, such as DDT, which is dichloro, diphenyl, trichloroethane, malathion, diazinon, benzene, chloridine, propagine, and Agent Orange. Jesus Christ. How much stuff did they have to use out there? 2,4,5-T and DDT are now banned from being used or produced in the United States by the U.S. EPA after medical studies demonstrated a connection between usage and chronic illness. Benzene is a known carcinogen, creates cancer. 2,4-D is still widely used but has been linked to non-Hodgkin's lymphoma through the U.S. EPA in 2007. Existing data does not support the link between human cancer and 2,4-D exposure. Bullshit. The Veterans Affairs surgeon representing Glazer said prostate cancer is a service-connectable disease with Agent Orange exposure, and the board ruled there is no evidence to the contrary, and the veterans treating VA surgeon is competent to provide such an opinion. So there you go, folks. It's proven that man has cancer from being exposed to these chemicals. How many other people in Rantoul are going to get cancer from being exposed to these chemicals through groundwater? Another veteran who lives in the area confirmed Glazer's account of Agent Orange being used at Chanute, but declined to go on record. The Chanute Restoration Advisory Board, a public board that works in conjunction with the Air Force and Illinois EPA to approve records of decisions and provide more information about cleanup activities or concerns to the public, at a quarterly meeting on August 22nd, 2013, Doug Rocky said that he had a source who said Agent Orange was used and buried at Chanute. Paul Carroll, the environmental coordinator for the Defense Base Closure and Reassignment Commission, said that Chris Hill, the Illinois EPA project manager of Chanute, both said there have been other claims of Agent Orange usage and burial on the Chanute, but maintain nothing has ever been found. I'll bet it's under that 10 feet of dirt. Or it's under Heritage Lake. I mean, they filled that lake with, I don't know, 1 million tons of water.
Well, it should disperse it pretty well. I mean, like Fukushima, it disperses with enough water.
Yeah. After the August meeting, the Rantoul Press reporter asked follow-up questions to Carroll and Hill. They did not answer. Instead, Public Relations Coordinator Chad Starr and Andrew Mason intervened. Both Starr and Mason denied phone interviews and only wanted to answer by email. Starr, on August 23rd, denied that Agent Orange was used at Chanute. This reporter cited that the 1983 installation restoration program of Chanute on page 72 stated during the 60s, 4 55-gallon drums containing 2,4-D and 2,4,5-T were buried in an on-site landfill. Starr wrote, the document does not state Agent Orange was disposed of, but it does discuss the possibility, based on interviews with base personnel on or around 83, that 4 55-gallon drums of the 2 herbicides, which we all read mixed together make Agent Orange, may have been buried in Landfill 2 or Landfill 3. Monsanto made some of the herbicide for DOD. Monsanto's own website says Agent Orange contains a 50-50 mixture. We just read that a minute ago. The chemical reaction creates byproduct dioxin, an extremely toxic chemical, even in small dosages. A March 13, 1984 letter from the EPA, Richard Bartlett, to Air Force Major Paul Garcia stated some concern is expressed about 4 drums of pesticides which were deposited in either landfill 2 or 3. Locating the drums would undoubtedly be very difficult at this time. The health hazard of this toxic material is increased, however, by the fact of the high water table in the area. Some exploratory soundings for the drums appear to be indicated. A March 7, 2006 U.S. EPA letter stated that there were elevated levels of dioxin in the southwest portion of Landfill 3's soil. Excuse me. The shallow aquifer is said to act as a recharger for the low aquifers, posing a further problem. Some precautionary pollution control steps may need to be considered in the future. I got 10 minutes left. Wow, shit, this article's only half over. Holy crap, I'm not going to make it through this, people. I'm not going to make it through this whole article today. I got 10 minutes left. Evidence of Agent Orange. The Air Force's denial is a distinction without a difference. There is ample evidence the herbicide was used at Chanute, but was not labeled as Agent Orange, but as chemical designation. According to a March 1st, 79 article from the now defunct Morning Courier out of Urbana, I remember that paper, 2,4-D and 2,4,5-T are in use today and have been used since the 50s at Chanute. The article continues, during Vietnam, 2,4,5-T contained relatively large amounts of the toxic contaminant dioxin and was used in the defoliant known as Agent Orange. The Air Force said it is safe to assume the contaminated herbicide was used at Chanute during the same period. Oh man, oh man, oh man, oh man.
You know what's sad?
Tell me.
Is that, well, I mean, besides this whole story, but that there's so many people active duty that were active duty at the time that know all this that's going on, and because of a sense of duty and patriotism to country, they won't come out and tell the truth.
Whatever.
There's so many people there.
That's not being a patriot, people. That's not being a patriot.
Thank you.
That's keeping your mouth shut because you got a paycheck. That's being a statist is what that is.
It's on the same level as that don't snitch thing that the brothers have.
Right.
I mean,
snitches get stitches. Wow, that bird was pissed off about something. In September and October, this reporter kept researching in various Air Force, Illinois EPA, and U.S. EPA documents concerning Chanute. Linda K. May, a controversial local activist, is a nurse and former Vermilion County health inspector. In 1990 and 91, Vermilion County is directly east of Rantoul. May alleged private wells south of Chanute contained dioxin poisoning. Minutes of a December 10th, 1998 RAB meeting confirm this assertion. According to the October 98 RAB transcript, the private wells of rural Rantoul resident Betty Panzer, Gretchen Clifton, and Frederick Ackerman, I know the Ackermans, I went to school with their kids, were tested by the Air Force and contaminated with dioxin and furans. Gretchen Clifton declined to be interviewed, and Frederick Ackerman has left his residence before 2003. While no housing structure remains at the 1771 County Road address. The Air Force, through contacting labs, Triangle, Durham, North Carolina, and RECRA at the University Park close to Chicago, made this discovery in October of 98, but waited until a week before the December 10, 98 RAB meeting to notify any residents. At the meeting, Clifton asked the Air Force to pay for a private independent lab test for the water. Instead of the Air Force and the EPA. Officials told Clifton those tests would cost more than $5,000 per sample, and they would not pay. Betty Panzer, now 70, moved to her property in 93. To her property in 93. It sits across the street from the southwestern portion of Landfill 3, where the monstrous mounds loom prominently through her window hundreds of feet away. In 94, she had a new well built with new piping as the old one dried up. The new well was 10 feet west of the old one and was free of contaminants when first tested. However, in 98, lab results showed dioxin, furan, and sodium contaminating her drinking well. Panzer is concerned that since she has the deepest private well, 150 feet, it was contaminated. Why hasn't the Air Force tested deeper wells? Why hasn't the Air Force tested at deeper levels with their monitoring system? Because theirs are only, I think, 60 or 70 feet deep. They're monitoring wells. I'm concerned since I have the deepest well in the area and it got polluted, Panzer said. Why don't they want to test? Mm-hmm. The Air Force and Illinois EPA have reported there is massive groundwater contamination in the Wisconsinian aquifer, up to 60 feet below the surface, and the Illinoisan aquifer, which is 60 to 140 feet. Panzer's contaminated well is 150. The Mahomet aquifer, from which Rantoul and more than 800,000 residents around 90 communities get their drinking water, is 220 to 290 feet below the surface. The Air Force and Illinois EPA have not tested the Mahomet aquifer and are not planning on testing it anytime soon, despite documentation of severe groundwater pollution in the Wisconsinian and Illinoisan aquifers. Panzer looks much older than her age, and severe illness ravages her weakening body. She has lost her ability to walk, and if she gets to her walker, she slowly moves around while hunched over. Panzer said that she has a rash on her body and feels so weak that she has fallen numerous times in January and might have broken her nose from one of her falls. Her doctor gave her a cardiogram and wants to administer an echocardiogram. He's worried about her heart. Back in 98, 2 of her dogs died, an Australian Shepherd and a Sheltie, and her daughter, who lived in Rantoul since up until 99, developed skin cancer, requiring half of her nose to be amputated back in 98. Panzer got skin cancer, and she went into remission in 06 and 07. She feels the Air Force and Illinois EPA are not doing a good job of safely addressing the environmental concerns. See, now this woman and her kid both got cancer, and there's not a damn thing they can do about it because nobody's admitted to this that has any kind of pull, right? So who are they going to sue? Who are they going to sue to try to recoup those costs, to try to get some medical services?
Well, it's the same reason that they failed to label PTSD as a illness for how many years? Because they knew how much it would cost them.
Right.
It's all about money.
It's all about money.
It's all about money.
Panzer maintains the Illinois EPA promised to come to her residence 1 or 2 times a year to check her well, but no one has come in the last 10 years, she said. She also stopped attending RAB meetings and asking the Air Force and the Illinois EPA questions because she felt intimidated. Government's covering it up. Media's covering it up. EPA's covering it up. Air Force is covering it up. Rantoul locals have no, what? The local government's covering it up too, yeah? All the owners of the property.
You're getting kickbacks or something.
Who's gonna fund those cleanups? Superfund ain't got no money no more. They haven't had any money since early 2000s. Cause all the spills and shit that go on in this country on a daily basis. I wish I could finish the story out. There's so much more to it, one of the reporters at the Rantoul Press that tried digging into this story got fired. Some people from the town council in Rantoul made some calls to his boss down at the News Gazette because he worked for the press. The press is owned by the Gazette. And they fired him because he was asking questions. His name is Sandal. Sandal was fired by Rantoul. Fired by Rantoul Marriage. No. Oh, nope, that's the wrong one.
It's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
And the whole thing is, what was that saying? When the people fear the government, there's tyranny, and when the government fears the people, I mean, people need to start speaking up.
Yeah, no kidding.
But this isn't probably the only one that's in the United States either. But
no, it's not. Keep your ears
Peace
open.
and love.
I'm sorry, I let the talk.